A boy sits alone in a library in Pretoria, South Africa, working his way through book after book. He has already finished everything on the shelves meant for children his age. So he moves on to the encyclopedia. All of it, cover to cover, volume after volume, because there is nothing else left to read, and because at home, things are hard, and here in these pages, they are not. He is quiet. He is bullied. He does not always understand the unspoken rules other children seem to know by instinct, but he remembers everything he reads, and that memory will follow him his whole life. Good to have you here. This is the story of Elon Musk, a story about invention, obsession, and the strange, uneven price of ambition. If stories like this one interest you, stay with us a while. By the time he was 10 years old, Elon Musk was teaching himself to use a computer. By 12, he had written and sold his own video game. By 17, he had left South Africa for good, carrying little more than a plan and a stubborn belief that he belonged somewhere else. He was born on June 28, 1971, to an engineer father and a mother who worked as a model and a dietitian. His parents divorced when he was 8, and the years that followed were not easy ones. Musk has said little publicly about the details, only that his father was a difficult man to be around. What he does say clearly is that reading, and later computers, gave him somewhere else to put his mind. At 17, using his mother's Canadian citizenship, he left South Africa and enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario. He later transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned 2 degrees, one in physics, one in economics. He was admitted to a PhD program at Stanford. He lasted 2 days before he left it behind, not because the science didn't interest him, but because by 1995, the internet was becoming something real, and he had an idea he couldn't put down. His first company was called Zip2, a simple service that helped newspapers put city guides and maps online. He slept at the office. He showered at the local YMCA. He worked the kind of hours that only make sense to someone who believes, quietly and completely, that this is going to matter. In 1999, Compaq bought Zip2 for over $300 million. Musk walked away with about $22 million of that, enough for most people to be the whole story. Instead, he put $10 million of it straight into a new venture, an online bank called X.com, which would eventually merge with a rival company to become PayPal. When eBay bought PayPal in 2002, Musk received somewhere around $180 million. He was 31 years old. And yet, this is the part that tells you who he actually was. He didn't slow down, and he didn't diversify. He took nearly all of it and pointed it at 2 of the hardest, least forgiving industries a person could choose: rockets and electric cars. He founded SpaceX in 2002, hoping to bring down the staggering cost of reaching orbit. He poured about $100 million of his own money into it. The company built its rockets in a warehouse in California, and its engineers worked 80, 90, 100 hours a week, chasing something no private company had ever done. The first Falcon 1 launch, in 2006, failed. The second, in 2007, failed. The third, in the summer of 2008, failed too. That same year, Tesla, the electric car company where Musk had become chairman and later CEO, was bleeding money during the worst financial crisis in 80 years. General Motors would soon file for bankruptcy. No one believed an upstart electric car maker would survive what the giants couldn't. By the end of 2008, Musk had put almost everything he had into both companies. He was, by his own account, borrowing money from friends to cover his rent. No house he could sell, no cushion left. On September 28, 2008, SpaceX launched its fourth Falcon 1 rocket. If it failed, there would be no money left to try a fifth time. It reached orbit. That successful launch brought SpaceX a NASA contract, and that contract kept the company alive. Weeks later, on Christmas Eve, a last-minute financing round for Tesla closed with hours to spare. Musk later said if it had slipped even 2 days, payroll would have bounced. He gave what remained of his own fortune to make sure it didn't. Both companies lived. Neither had been guaranteed to. It would be easy to tell this part of the story as a triumph and stop there. But that isn't quite honest. What came after wasn't a straight climb. Tesla would face years of production struggles still ahead of it. SpaceX would keep failing, in smaller ways, on the road to succeeding in bigger ones. The pattern that defined 2008, bet everything, come to the edge, find a way through, would repeat itself more than once in the years that followed, including during Tesla's brutal production scaling years. And again when Musk bought Twitter in 2022, another enormous leveraged wager on something no one was sure would work. Here's what's worth sitting with. None of it was inevitable. 100 small decisions could have gone the other way. A fourth failed launch, a financing round that didn't close in time, and the story we're telling right now would have ended in 2008 in a warehouse in El Segundo with nothing left to show for it. Instead, SpaceX grew into the company that carries astronauts to orbit and blankets remote parts of the world with satellite internet through Starlink. Tesla became one of the most valuable car companies on Earth. In 2023, Musk founded an artificial intelligence company, XA, which was later folded into SpaceX itself. And in June of 2026, SpaceX completed its public offering, one of the largest in history, which pushed Musk's own fortune past $1 trillion, making him the first person in recorded history to reach that number. Even that milestone, though, came with its own quiet lesson. So much of that wealth exists on paper, tied up in stock that can rise sharply and fall just as sharply. The same appetite for risk that built the fortune is the same thing that could, in a different year, take a large piece of it away. Musk himself has never pretended otherwise. Strip away the headlines and the staggering numbers, and what's left is a simpler story. A lonely boy who read to survive his childhood. A young man who bet an entire fortune, twice, on things he believed mattered more than his own comfort. A man now in his 50s who still, by every account, works the way he did in that first cramped office, as though the outcome were never actually secure, no matter how large the numbers get. Most of us will never build a rocket company or reshape an industry, but most of us understand somewhere in our own lives what it feels like to bet everything on something uncertain. A marriage, a business, a move across the country, a child. We understand what it is to come right up to the edge of losing it all and to keep going anyway, not because we were certain it would work, but because turning back felt worse than the risk of pressing forward. That, more than any rocket or any car or any fortune, might be the truest part of this story. Not the billions. The nerve it took to risk everything on something that could just as easily have failed. If this story stayed with you, consider subscribing to Histolingo. There are more like it waiting.